When I think about ultimate performance when it comes to pressure washers, I think about the Italian company AR. They are known for their unbelievable reliability, amazing build quality, unbelievable performance, and importantly, also a very high price point. Instead of today talking about a nearly $1,400 AR635, we're going to change things up and talk about this. This is the new ARXP-AW 1000, the brand new entry-level pressure washer, and at just $189 here, given the performance on paper, this thing might just be the best new electric pressure washer for sub $200. In today's video, we're going to be doing a full review, checking out the actual unit, looking at each and every one of these accessories, which, spoiler alert, actually seem pretty darn impressive for the price point here. We'll of course get this set up, talk about noise performance, put this through our PSI and GPM testing. We'll check out the foam cannon, manipulate all the orifices, and see what kind of performance we can actually get out of this. At the end of the day, what I'm here to do is figure out if this is actually worth that $189 price point. Welcome back to the channel. Let's jump into it. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. I am super excited to dive into the new ARXP for you and see how this thing actually stacks up. Now, before we dive into this, understand I paid full retail price for this unit. I have no affiliation with AR. Yes, I have selected an AR635 as my pressure washer of choice for my detailing business here, but I actually paid nearly $1,400 for that. So I'm not here to make AR look good, nor am I here to make them look bad. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you whether this thing's freaking awesome. I'm going to tell you whether this thing frickin' sucks, and I'll give you recommendations on other pressure washers to get. And I'm also going to tell you if there's some area for improvement here and some things I might like to see. But without further ado, let's dive into the review. All right, guys, well, let's dive right into the ARXP-AW 1000. First off, I'm not really sure why they named this after a fax machine. I'm just going to refer to it as the ARXP from now on in the video, but if you're searching for it, it'll be one of those two words and it'll probably pop up there. But this unit retails right at $189 for the unit, all the accessories that come with it. We're going to dive into the accessories, see if they're actually worth it or not. Again, they're actually pretty darn impressive here. Now, they claim a working pressure of 1,000 PSI and 2 GPM here, which, can I just say how crazy it is that we are now at this point in 2026 here, and even back in 2025, where we have units getting close to what the old Krenzla K1322 TS used to be. We used to think of that as the gold standard, over $1,000 for that pressure washer, and it would achieve basically 1,000 PSI at 1.9 GPM. And these units are getting very, very close at sub $200, which is absolutely crazy. Now, this is a 15 amp unit, meaning that it's going to work on pretty much any garage plug you have at home. You're not going to have to rewire and do a 20 amp circuit like I've had to do with the 635 here. It's going to be a plug and play, very easy to use. Now, this utilizes a universal motor. This also, interestingly, utilizes a aluminum axial radial pump head on it, which actually seems to make this thing a little bit lighter than I expected it to be. This only comes in right at 19 pounds, and you can put up to 140 degrees of hot water in here. So not technically a hot water version, but up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit is actually pretty darn impressive. Now, the first thing I noticed about this product when I actually went to purchase this, I thought this was going to be quite a comparable size to a Ryobi 1.8, or maybe even somewhere between that Ryobi and the Greenworks version. And it's actually really darn small, which I actually love. So this is very narrow, but the width here is the most impressive part. It is a very compact design, but they have really gone through and put a lot of storage on here, which I love to see. So first up here, right on the handle, you can see this entire area can actually fit our lance and our actual pressure washer gun, which we'll go through in a minute. On the back side here, we have our two pressure washer tips, 25 degree as well as a 15 degree here. And they actually have little grommets, so those are ready to go, easy to use there. Now you can see on the side here, they've actually given you an area to hang your hose on, which I love to see. I love having some storage for that. And no, this is not the most premium thing here, right? This is just, you know, a piece of plastic, but it's really nice that they have thought through actually giving you some storage space here, so you're pretty much ready to go. Now, one thing I would have liked to have seen was give an area for your 35-foot GFCI cable here to actually go. Be great if we could put this on this side and then have basically an identical one over here to hang our hose over here. And basically you're pretty much good to go. You could even stick your foam cannon right in the end here and have an all-in-one solution, which would be pretty darn awesome to see. Now, right up top here, we have a bright teal on-off switch. Absolutely love that. And I also love the color scheme they went with here. I love the matte black housing on this. This would be something I'd be very much happy to put up on a wall. It looks more expensive than the Ryobis, the Greenworks out there, and even the Ava pressure washers. It's just a very minimalist looking design. Now, you can say the pop of color over here might not be your fancy. I would probably agree with you. I'm a little bit more of a monotone guy, but the nice just light pops of teal here look really nice. And I also really like up here how you have aluminum outflow and your input here. It just looks pretty darn awesome. Now, with this unit, you also get this little adapter, which is an aluminum garden hose thread, your 3/4 inch, that's going to go directly on the back. Now, anytime we're talking about pressure washers here, I'm always going to recommend you guys to get quick connect sets. So I'll leave those in the link in the description. So what I'd recommend doing here is putting your male on this actual side. This is going to go into the back of this. And on the other side of your garden hose, you're going to put the female. Those connect very easily. Up front here, we have our M22 14mm fitting, which will directly go into this hose here. Where's the end here? This hose directly right here. So you can sit there and screw that on. Again, one thing I like here is they went with aluminum over brass. Brass is a material I think a lot of people don't really understand. You hear us a lot talk about stainless steel or nickel plated brass. The reason we talk about those for areas you're going to screw on and screw off stuff or use them for quick disconnects is brass is very soft. I'm not necessarily worried so much about the corrosion or lack of corrosion resistance on brass. Rather, it's a soft material, and over time they wear down as you're quick connecting and screwing things on, and that's how you get leaks over time. So what I'd recommend here, M22 14mm fitting, something like this can go directly on the front. You can do a female version or you can actually do a male version, whichever side you actually want here. So overall unit I'm really pleased with. Now, one thing that's interesting here is they actually give you these feet that extend down and slightly out. Now, without the feet, I really don't actually think you need them. I'm curious to see if it gets a little bit louder, and these are a little bit of a way to actually dampen the sound. We can actually play with that, so I'll start with them on. You can take them off to see if it changes anything, like it would be sitting on a shelf. Other than that, guys, I think they absolutely nailed the overall design of this. This also comes with a little O-ring kit here, and they actually tell you on this little back plate of what you can put in here or what the O-rings are. Hose to pump and gun, end of gun, lance and soap bottle, hose to gun. It's great that they give these to you, so if you do have something that starts leaking, you can hook it back up and it's pretty much ready to go. Now, typically at this price point of pressure washers, when you buy them from a big box store, I'm thinking about the Ryobi, the Greenworks, some various other ones out there. Typically, all you're really after is the actual unit, and then you're gonna buy a new hose, buy a new pressure washer gun, definitely get a foam cannon, and probably get a higher quality lance. And I gotta tell you guys, AR actually did a very good job overall with the accessories that actually come with it. And the highlight for me starts here on their actual hose. So this is a 40-foot 5/16 hose. This has a TPU outer layer. This has a fiber braided inside of it, and importantly is very kink resistant without memory. Now, you still can kink this thing, so if I actually totally put this over on itself, you can see that'll fully kink there, and then as I let this go, no memory in it. But twisting this thing around, it just goes right back to new. I am absolutely a huge fan of this hose. Now, the great thing about this, it's super light as well. 2.73 pounds on this entire thing. 40 feet is enough, especially if you're watching outside, to get the pressure washer out there, go do your thing around the car and have plenty of room. Now, 50-foot hose is always preferred and recommended, but this, guys, is the first hose I will tell you, you do not need to immediately upgrade. In fact, I would tell you not to upgrade because of how awesome this hose actually is. Use this thing until it explodes, starts leaking, doing whatever, or you need some some extra length, don't spend the extra money to actually get this. Now this has M22 14mm fitting on this, so if you take off your quick connect here, that's going to directly screw directly into this, so you can use it as it is. Now I'm always going to recommend you get quick connects, like I said earlier on these. You can put it on one end and another one for your actual gun here. So the hose, really impressed here. Honestly, no notes for a $189 accessory bundle. Now, next thing here, let's talk about this, their actual pressure washer gun. And I gotta say, okay, it's a little ugly of a color in my personal opinion. I love the hose in the teal color. It's kind of a nice accent throughout, matches the machine. This is a lot of teal though, for sure. But the nice thing here is, guys, this is probably the best sub $200 pressure washer accessory gun that I have ever felt. Now this has all aluminum internals in it and stainless steel quick disconnects on it, which is actually awesome. You can also see here, we have an area to actually put our pressure washer tips, which is cool to see. So we can put our 25 degree and our 15 degree. Now I will say they do fit in here. These actually do touch. I think if you use, you know, the more traditional smaller ones instead of these big boys, this would fit. But I gotta say, overall, this thing feels totally awesome. It's number one, nice and lightweight, which I think for a lot of people is a good thing. I like more of the super premium feel, so that definitely doesn't give like that overall satisfaction of being a super heavy gun. But overall, there's nothing really wrong with this. The one thing I would recommend upgrading is actually getting a swivel quick disconnect down here. That's going to totally change the game. But this gun, again, is not something I would immediately recommend you go run out and spend, you know, $80 to $100 on a different pressure washer gun. This is totally usable, totally fine. The plastics on here feel absolutely great. You know, if you're going to drop it on the concrete, do whatever. Actually really like this. And that brings me to this. This is their 15-inch lance or wand, whatever you want to call it. This has a 25 degree angle on it. The thing that shocks me here, stainless steel core. I am pretty blown away that they did that and not just nickel plated brass or aluminum in here. 304 stainless steel. That's absolutely awesome. Stainless steel quick disconnector, 1/4 inch on this side. And then up here is actually brass. So guys, the lance here is absolutely awesome. And again, I love how smooth the quick connects are here. And importantly, on a lance like this, this whole situation here is super lightweight. So if you're washing, you know, a big truck, big SUV, you're not going to be straining holding something that is super heavy, super awkward and long. This is great. And then again, this actually, hello foam cannon, clicks, boom, boom, right into there. So perfect storage optimization for that. I absolutely love those accessories. Now, one thing I do want to talk about here is our actual pressure washer tips. Now, also stainless steel here. So the entire core here, your quick disconnect and the actual orifice in here, fully stainless steel on the 15 degree and 25 degree. Now, you're seeing a lot of pressure washers in this price range go to this type of tip with this rubberized outside. Now, a lot of them are doing that for when you're working around the car, you accidentally nick it on the vehicle. Okay. Theoretically, that's good. I will tell you the rubber on this is not amazing. The issue with these is what actually happens if you don't get this fully connected into your gun at one point. Let's say, you know, I get it like that and I don't actually connect it and I pull the trigger. You would think this is going to shoot at the car, and because this is rubber, it's not going to do as much damage. Well, the problem is it changes the weight balance on these. So these things actually rotate in the air and you basically have 50-50 chance of hitting it with metal or this more plasticky rubber on it. So it is interesting and a little bit of a shame they don't give you a 40 degree, especially for washing your vehicle. That is something I would have liked to seen for sure. Now the foam cannon that I just picked up off the floor, I gotta say guys, for an entry-level pressure washer, actually seems pretty decent. Now I'm curious to see how this actually performs. We'll do some testing with it, but this is a 27 ounce bottle, 750 milliliters. So not our traditional 1,000, but you're definitely gonna be able to get fully around a car with that. In fact, here at the shop, even using my 635, I typically, when I'm washing, you know, a mid-size crossover SUV, I fill it up with 700 milliliters of soap and water solution, and I still have extra left over if I need to refoam the car down in some certain areas. So not a huge issue on the bottle. Now, we have a full brass head up here. We actually do have swivel control. I mean, this actually feels like a decently substantial foam cannon for the price point here. Now, of course, you can go upgrade this, and I'll give you some recommendations later on here, but this is totally fine for out of the box. Way better than the Ryobi, way better than the crappy Greenworks that came with it, but we do have to see how this will actually perform. Now what's interesting is this stainless steel plug here actually has no way, I assume this actually comes out to change your orifice, maybe not. There's no way to actually wrench this off, so that's kind of weird. They say this has a 1.1 millimeter orifice in it. We'll test with a 125, a 135, and a 1.1 to see what the amperage is, but that's what they claim this actually is. I do want to twist this off quickly and check out, wow, the dip tube is not pure junk. I mean, this is movable and foldable, and we even have a filter at the bottom. Like, nothing wrong with this foam cannon, at least on the bench here. So I gotta say, good job, very good job to AR. I mean, this is at the point, guys, where I think you spend 189 bucks on this over here, and maybe if you want a nicer foam cannon, get something like the Armor Detail Supply Drift foam cannon, spend 45 bucks on that. Fantastic foam cannon. Guys, you're good to go for, you know, sub 250 bucks here very, very easily, like shipped to your house, taxes included, all of that stuff. I'm a big fan. So now let's get this thing hooked up and let's see how this thing actually sounds being a universal motor. All right, guys, now it's time to actually turn this on. So we've got our water inlet, water outlet, we've got the hose connected here to our gun, we've got the pressure washer gauge, and we importantly have the air out of the line. Now, understand with this, universal motor, typically a little noisier, typically have some pressure washer shrill to it, but I'm curious to see how it sounds. So let's turn it on for the very first time. Okay, so the end of that is really interesting noise. It's like you're squishing two little mice, like one and then two. Wow. Ooh, don't know if I love that. All right, let's put a tip in here. We'll go with the 25 degree here. Let's pull the trigger. Okay. Wow. Okay, the end of that is something special. I mean, that is a very interesting noise. So I will tell you, I'm standing right next to this thing, right? I wouldn't say it's horrendously loud. It's really not that bad. The end little burp burp is not a big fan of that. So a couple of things here. Right in line right now, I'm holding 650 PSI. What I first noticed by pulling that, because it's holding a little bit less line pressure than what it's going to build to, it's got to build that up. So you're going to pull it, it's not going to have full, and then it's going to build. So you can see that right here. There it goes. So you can see you can get it to kind of slow on the recovery if you're boom on off. You're not typically doing that, of course, but interesting how that goes. So let's see with this 25 degree tip. So straight out of the box, 1000 PSI and right at 14 amps. Now my voltage here, 122.2, so quite high voltage. I'm curious to see how we can actually manipulate the orifice in here to maybe drop that down slightly. Actually, it seems perfectly optimized. I like right about, you know, between 900 and 1000 PSI. Typically on these lower flow units, 1000 PSI is kind of my lower threshold, maybe 950 in there, but I'll be curious to see how that goes there. Now, one thing I did notice when I was setting this up is this here. So the unit is quite light, of course, right? It's only 19 pounds. So if you are going to wall mount this, you're gonna have to actually mount this thing. Now, my 635 up there, it's a beast. I think that thing's like 65 pounds or something like that. It also has rubberized feet, and that comes back to my point about the feet here. What I would prefer, or what I would give a recommendation to AR for, is maybe instead of spending the money on the plastic feet here, if you could just put little rubber things at the bottom of the actual unit here and just completely skip the feet, I think that would be a little bit better so it doesn't move around so much. It's not the end of the world. The other thing, just looking at this, is yeah, it's going to be a little trickier to wall mount because you have your water inlet on the back side of this. So you'd probably need to elbow this. Now, the way they've designed this being so narrow here, on a decently sized shelf, if you have that elbow, it's not going to stick off that much. So I do like all of that. But I also want to see what the noise performance is across the shop. I don't wash cars right here, right? So let's head across the shop and see how it actually sounds. I'm roughly 25 feet away from the unit now, like I would be actually washing the car. So let's see how it actually sounds. Wow. I can barely hear the unit. I can barely hear the unit over the actual pressure or the water coming out of the tip here. That's pretty impressive. Now, you definitely do hear the squeak carry across here. Now, understand in my shop as well, I have huge ceilings. They're like up to 30 feet in here. I have no sound deadening, so sound bounces around in here. Subjectively, I can tell you, this is a very pleasant sounding universal motor pressure washer, and the noise doesn't carry that far. So I do think if you have neighbors, this is not going to be absolutely horrendous. It's definitely a little on the louder side when you're up close to it. I'm very impressed when I would actually be using it. So that for me is a big thumbs up. I also just have to say yet again how amazing this hose is to unbox a affordable or cheap pressure washer here and not just have this coiled up hose even after I've stretched it out, walked it out, as Mr. Keeve would say. This hose is flipping fantastic. Very good job to AR for that. So next what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shut off the cameras and do all the boring work for you. And that is our PSI testing, flow testing, and current draw. Now we'll test it with the stock tips, and then we'll go up in orifice size, down in orifice size. I'll give you guys all the data. Now, how I actually do that is I like to run in the unit a little bit. Now this is not required for when the unit is brand new out of the box. It's good to go. What happens is as the unit gets more heat into it, it gets more efficient, gets all the oil moving around there. So I like to do that to give more accurate numbers after it's a little warmed up. Pretty much just like a car here. Some really nice performance results here from the ARXP. So starting off here with the stock 25-degree tip, 1000 PSI, 13.6 amps, giving us 1.83 GPM. The stock 15-degree tip, 1000 PSI, 13.5 amps, 1.84 GPM. So very slightly different. That could have just been down to like a slight bit of timing there, but nears makes no difference. Now, manipulating the orifice size here, if we start off with a 5.0, that actually drops the PSI. So opening up that orifice to 850 PSI, pulling 12.4 amps, giving us 1.97 GPM. Now, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's great. But I think on these lower-ish flow units, 850 PSI, for me personally, not quite enough. Now, closing it down a little bit to a 4.5 orifice, you can see 925 PSI, 13 amps on the nose, giving us 1.89 GPM. Amazing results there. That's very, very respectable. Now what's interesting is the stock tips are somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5, somewhere kind of in the middle there. Because if we close that down even more, 1050 PSI with that 4.0 orifice, giving us 13.7 amps at 1.81 GPM. So pretty interesting there. And then the last one, a 3.5 orifice, I wouldn't really say is ideal. 1150 PSI, 14.55 amps, giving us 1.73 GPM. Still very respectable numbers there for sure. Now what's really interesting is the foam cannon here. So the stock foam cannon, definitely don't think it's a 1.1 orifice. It gives us 1000 PSI, 13.21 amps. Now the ADS foam cannon with a 1.25 millimeter orifice, which is stock in there, pretty typical what most foam cannons come with. 1300 PSI, and you can see over amping the machine, even on very high voltage here at my shop at 15.3 amps. So that's definitely not going to work. Now what's interesting here, very similar to like an Active 2.0, gonna probably have to run a MJJC style 1.35 millimeter orifice, gives us 1050 PSI, 14.2 amps. I wouldn't really recommend opening it up much more there. I guess you technically could. 1.4s are very hard to come by. 1.45s, okay, sure, you might be able to find them out there. But now that we all understand that, I would say pretty respectful results here, but let's see the foam cannon test. So next, let's check out foam cannons and how they actually work with this particular unit. So we're gonna be using the ARXP accessory bundle foam cannon with the stock orifice and the Armor Detail Supply drift foam cannon with that MJJC 1.35 millimeter orifice. Now we're going to be using Quiver Rogue. This is one of the most high foaming, high suds, concentrated car shampoos out there. I actually only use 2 ounces per 1,000 milliliters on my AR635, which is hard to do for a lot of soaps. So let's start off with their accessory bundle one here and see how it does. Wow, that's not impressive at all. Now, this car is coated, which makes it worse. It just falls off the panel. You can see pretty darn runny. And again, Quiver Rogue on an ounce in a good foam cannon should be no problem here on this type of flow pressure washer. So that's a little bit of a bummer. It seems like AR doesn't quite understand foam cannons and foam cannon orifices quite yet, because the same thing happened on the AR635 when I got it. That's why I was so darn frustrated with it. So let's just take the ADS Drift foam cannon and go right on top. Yeah, buddy. Bada boom, bada bing. So that's what we're looking for, that nice, thick, rich snow foam on there. And again, $45 foam cannon, MJJC 1.35, and only an ounce of Quiver Rogue. Same exact dilution as the ARXP fax machine. So snow foam looks fantastic, guys. Zero complaints with that. That looks absolutely phenomenal. Let's check out the rinseability while we're at it. So this is pretty thick on here, of course. We're going to take our 25-degree tip. Nice. So that's, again, our 1000 PSI, 1.84 GPM. Looking pretty good there, guys. So foam cannon, yeah, definitely a little bit of a letdown. But let me get this dried off and give you guys some final thoughts and final value proposition. Well, guys, finishing up this review here, I got to tell you, I'm coming out of this very impressed. I think for me, this is such an easy product to recommend, and honestly, probably going to be my new favorite entry-level pressure washer. Now, we do have a video coming up in just a couple of days after this, where we're going to head-to-head compare all of the entry-level pressure washers, including this versus the competition, the Ryobi, the Greenworks, the Active 2.0, and the Ava Go as well, to see which one is actually the best bang for the buck and compare all of them in one video. That'll be a long, nerdy video, but I just have to say, I'm coming out of this very much smiling, because AR did such a good job nailing most of the points here. I mean, number one, I love the design. I think this thing looks great in matte black. It feels a little bit more premium having the aluminum here. Once you get stainless steel quick disconnects, it looks really nice. And I gotta say, didn't love the teal when I unboxed it. Now I'm like, dang, the teal and matte black looks pretty sick together. And the biggest takeaway for me is finally a company understanding that we want quality accessories even in entry-level pressure washers. They don't need to be the best of the best, but make them actually usable. And just looking at the hose here, they nailed this so well. I just want to give AR a huge thumbs up for that. And even going to the lance here, having stainless steel on this, and stainless steel quick disconnects on the gun, and even the gun being actually pretty darn awesome, I think, for 90% of people out there. Sure, there's better ones out there, but I think a lot of you, especially if you've used this Craftsman's, the Greenworks, the Ryobis, this is a way better gun than all of them, bar none. Now, again, I don't think this unit is perfect. My biggest gripe with this, and yeah, it's not an end-all like, hey, I wouldn't recommend it because of this, is that squeak at the end of the total start-stop. And, just modifying some things a little bit. I really wish this would come with a 40-degree nozzle, especially around that or getting close to that 2 GPM. It's really nice with a 40-degree tip to be able to rinse away soap very quickly. I would love to see rubberized feet instead of just straight plastic here to keep it from moving around. That's a little bit of a shame. And then something like this, adding this to the side so we can have somewhere to put that big 35-foot long cable on, I think would make this thing awesome. Now, the biggest disappointment to me is the foam cannon here, which seems to just be an AR thing. Like, I think back to the AR635, they developed the most badass pressure washer out there, like insane performance, build quality is insane, like built to last generations essentially. And they like totally forgot that we still use that to actually foam down our car, and the mess that we've been through this year of trying to dial that machine in. I don't understand how they actually sign off on a foam cannon like this with such weak performance. I don't get it. To me, it's at the point, like, just don't include it. It's a waste of money. We're just gonna get it and throw it away. Nobody is gonna like this. So that to me is a little bit on the lame side. I would still love to see the option to buy this unit completely bare bones, and then you can accessorize it how you want. But I think at 189 bucks here, again, the foam cannon really sucks for me. You buy this, you get some stainless steel quick disconnects, get yourself a $45 ADS drift foam cannon. You are going to absolutely love this unit. So this for me, huge thumbs up. Great job on this AR. Really, really impressed. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for that next video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.